Mic check. Mic check. Us speaking this way is okay. So right here. Okay, so I'll just lean in just.
Check, check, check. Mic check. Check, check. Check, check. Microphone check, check, check.
Test, test, test. Ooh, that sounds good. Okay, I think we got audio. Test, test, test. Okay, we're waiting to begin. It looks like we're running a little behind because I'm a little concerned. I don't see John's candidates here, so I'm a little concerned. So, again, I want to remind you that we're taking questions. If you want to write one down for the first hour of this debate, is questions that will come from the audience here for the second part. So you're welcome for the first hour to write a question, go in the back or in the front, to write a question down, and we'll hopefully your question gets picked for the second hour. So again, we were hoping to start at 6:30. So hang in there, and let's keep you posted on what's happening. Thank you.
All right. We will be returning shortly. Please prepare for broadcast and await further instructions. Thank you.
All right, test, test, test. Okay, in a few minutes, we're actually back on schedule, which isn't too bad. We're going to come out here and flip a coin. That coin toss is going to determine who is candidate 1 and who's candidate 2. Again, we're trying to be as transparent and open as possible and leave it up to chance. By the way, my name is Ron Cox, and welcome to the second debate. Thank you. Let's hear for the audience here. It takes a lot to put these things together, and I appreciate everyone showing up. Because if you do this whole thing and no one shows up, it's not quite the same thing. So thank you all for coming. So in a few moments, we'll be determined who's candidate 1 and 2, and then going to have them go back, and then they'll be introduced. And here's the thing about the quorum of the audience. Ian was going to talk about it again during the show, but I thought I'd mention it first. And that is that it's important to have the sharing of ideas and hear each candidate. So that's why we want to keep the noise level of the audience down. In other words, no clapping, no cheering, no booing. In fact, you're here to listen. But when we begin the show, and that's when I introduce the candidates, that's when you can cheer and clap and welcome them both to sit down. And then at the end, when we finish and both candidates have finished their final remarks, there's another chance to cheer and welcome your candidate and support your candidate. So any questions about that? Because it's very important. We want to make this as fair and open as possible. Okay? Well, thank you so much. All right. Let's toss a coin, guys. Come on up. I think last time, John, you calls it this time. Gary. I'm going to flip it up. All right. Again, determine who's candidate 1. All right, you want to call it from here? It is heads. Candidate 1. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, go back in there and come on out, and we'll introduce you in a second. Go back in that room. Yeah. Yeah, go back in the room. We're going to introduce you. We're going to officially introduce you for the show. I don't think we've done a taping yet. I don't think. Well, we have.
We have, but not legitimately.
Yeah. This is behind the scenes. You're not going to see this on the video, I hope. Okay, we have determined that Gary Christenson is candidate 1 and John Matheson is candidate 2. So according to the rules, that's how the rest of the debate will be happening. And again, remind people who might want to have a question, the first hour, go in the back, fill it out, and we might pick it. We're trying to get as much input from the people as possible. That's the whole idea of this event. Okay, and now, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our moderator, Guillermo Hamlin. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And I'd like to thank the audience as well as the viewers at home. Please prep for broadcast. It is my great honor to be moderating this forum again. To my left, I'm joined by our panelist, Sharon, Fillyaw, who will be the voice and will be reading the public questions as well as questions submitted by organizations. But as Ron stated, we're going to have 2 periods in which applause is appropriate. I will be introducing the candidates as they make their way. This is one of those moments where you can applaud for your candidate. Following that, for the rest of the debate, please refrain from applauding, calling out, hollering, making noises, throwing items. Just grip in your seats and enjoy. It's going to be a fun ride. And also, at the end of the event, you may applaud for your candidate. Please brace yourselves. Please prepare your applause for your candidate. I'd like to introduce our first candidate, Mayor Gary Christenson, onto the stage, followed by candidate 2, Councilor John Matheson. And, okay, all right, very good, very good. Now, I'd like to introduce the second candidate, Councilor John Matheson, as well. applause period is over. I would like to thank you all for abiding. Remember that we are broadcasting live on MATV, the government channel. Please check your local listings in Verizon and Comcast. We are also broadcasting and live streaming on YouTube, as well as Ustream on our government live stream at matv.org. You can locate that now. So the format is as follows. It's very similar to every other format we've done. We alternate between the candidates. They have 2 minutes to respond, and then there's a follow-up. The only addition, the only difference was that we've added a different period of time, an additional 2 minutes to each candidate for rebuttal. And the distinction is, instead of panelists from the community, we have a single panelist who will read questions from the audience, as well as contributions from some organizations. I'd like to introduce her. Her name is Sharon Fillyaw, right here to my left. Please, you can give her applause. And now it is with such great honor that we'll proceed with the introduction of the candidates. We will start with Mayor Gary Christenson first with his opening statement, which will last 2 minutes, followed by John, who will also have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Let me take this opportunity to thank MATV, as well as everyone here or at home watching, for getting involved in the political process. Your involvement, as always, is what helps make our community better. Now, you might think I would come here tonight with having made adjustments since the last debate, such as changing up what I would say or how I would say it. But the feeling for me remains the same. I am honored to serve as your mayor and humbled to ask for the opportunity to continue to do so. Another thing that hasn't changed is that there is still a distinct difference in leadership style, track record, and accountability between myself and my opponent. For me, it's about commitment, it's about connection, it's about accessibility, and it's about reaching compromise to achieve results. We have both been in office for the last 8 years, and we've both had the opportunity to make an impact. The difference in track records is therefore not a difference in opportunity, but rather a difference in the ability to collaborate, work with others, and build consensus. During this debate, please keep in mind 2 things. Past performance is indicative of future results, and that it's not the what my opponent says, but rather it's the how. How will he be able to cut taxes, eliminate trash fees, and reduce water weights, all while fixing lead lines, replacing water mains, repairing roads, and supporting our public safety and school departments? So again, as this debate unfolds, remember 2 things. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. And past performance is, in fact, indicative of future results. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, your opening statement.
Well, thank you, Guillermo, and thank you, MATV, and thank you all for giving us this opportunity to talk with you tonight. I first ran for councilor for a very simple reason. My neighbors were upset that our street was badly broken and our sidewalk was so cracked and tilted that people were tripping on it. Simple quality of life issues are very important. And all these years later, I remain committed to having a government that listens to its people and serves their interests. Unfortunately, that's not what we've had these past 8 years. We've heard people say that they don't want more dense apartment buildings crowding our schools and our roads, yet this was never made a priority. We've heard people say they want options to blue trash bags, yet that was never made a priority. We've heard people say that they do not want more density at the Malden Hospital site, that we need some open space and affordable homes for seniors and veterans, yet that was not made a priority. In fact, the mayor did the exact opposite by negotiating a deal at that Malden Hospital site for more apartments that the folks didn't want. The future of Malden should be one where the people lead and the leaders follow. That is how America is supposed to run. It's supposed to be a government that's for the people. This is why I served on a record number of city committees, and it's also why I did that while working full-time as a trial attorney. And if it was my full-time job, as it is his, I know that we could do so much more. I started the first committee that focuses exclusively on traffic, and after only a few meetings, we were able to educate the public and engage them to deliver $1 million of safety improvements to the deadly intersection of Fellsway Ave and Highland Ave and Fellsway East that was causing our auto insurance rates to skyrocket. I also started a Malden Hospital Committee that brought the Malden City Council and the Medford City Council together to empower the people to work on the change they want to see for their community. This campaign is not personal, it's about issues and policy and the best way forward for Malden. Gary is a Malden boy like me, and win or lose, I wish him the best, I truly do. Thank you very much for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. So we're going to begin the question period of the debate. I'm going to leave this to our panelists, Sharon, Fillyaw, and then we're going to ask the first question, and then this first question will then go to Gary, then it will go to John, then there will be a period of rebuttal for both, in which case I'll lead that. Sharon, this is your time. Feel free to ask the first question.
Thank you, Guillermo. The first question is from the Malden Chamber of Commerce. Rising housing costs have become a serious issue for the residents of Malden. As mayor, what strategies will you employ to address housing cost issues in the city and facilitate affordability for both renters and homeowners?
Thank you, Sharon. Gary, first question.
Sure, thank you. Well, one of the first things we wanted to do was conduct a housing needs assessment. So that began in 2016. The results have now been finalized, and what we've done since is submit a series of proposals to the City Council for their consideration. First and foremost was to establish an affordable housing trust fund, of which people can now utilize those funds to be able to provide more affordable housing. We also have started down an inclusionary zoning feasibility study, which will, for the first time ever, require a certain percentage of units be deemed affordable. And then the one that I think is really unique is what they are calling a security deposit pilot program. For those that are usurped from their homes, they'll be able to pay first and last month. We're going to step in and do the security deposit amount. The other thing that we're doing, and we've always done in our time in office, is partner up. So we are working with Councilor Debbie DeMaria on Habitat for Humanity, which is currently building 8 units of affordable housing on Main Street. And we are also working with Bread of Life, who is in the midst of building 14 low-income studio apartments on Eastern Avenue. So I think that approach will help us get to where we all want to go. We know this is an important issue. The study told us that. And that's why from here on in, anything that occurs in Malden on our administration will include affordable housing.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, same question.
So when my opponent started his opening remarks, he said twice that past performance is indicative of future performance. Over the past 8 years, he has focused on zero affordable housing, despite many opportunities with major apartment developers. Every time these apartment developers build in our city, it's an opportunity to do something great for our city. Whether that is relining the sewers, paving the streets, or fixing one of our 200 broken fire hydrants, these things were never required of our apartment developers despite ample opportunity for it. One developer got a $2 million tax gift that he completely did not deserve for very little or nothing in return. My opponent says that saved the Masonic building from destruction, but that developer had already spent $100,000 fixing up that building. He had no intention of destroying it. It was merely a $2 million gift, and he didn't have to give us affordable housing for it. He didn't have to fix sewers. He didn't have to do much of anything, in fact. That is something that he created by crafting an H-dip zone that I supported in order to build the City Hall site. But then another vote came where he lobbied for the votes so that the ex-state senator could get that gift. Housing is getting very expensive in Malden because we have to pick up the slack. We're picking up the slack when we pay for our blue bags. We're picking up the slack in the water and sewer bills. He has a program where he overcharges us. He asked the city councilor for a 5% reserve in water and sewer accounts. And what he ended up taking was a $9 million, not a $1 million surplus, but a $9 million surplus. That makes it expensive for people to live here in Malden. and now there is $9 million in an account, but we should not have been paying that without some knowledge of it. And these are just basic cost of living expenses that he's put on us.
Thank you. Gary, 2-minute rebuttal.
The questions about affordable housing, I'm not sure if it's changed, but I also said in my opening statement that we have served the last 8 years together. So if there was something that had gone awry in the administration that we weren't doing what we should, council could have always stepped forward to say, let's see if I can try and provide a path forward. But he has not filed one meaningful piece of legislation in 8 years that would change the nature of development in the city. N-O-N-E, none. This is another example of the councilor offering no solutions when the opportunity existed while wanting the voters to believe that things would be different if he was mayor. All development requires issuance of a special permit, either by the planning board or the city council. And he's never opposed a residential development special permit request before the city council. Now, when it comes to Masonic, he did, but that was only when it was time to gear up to run for office. He could have easily motioned to take that out of the HDIP zone. He never did. So, you know, affordable housing, I think, again, is the question. We acknowledge that if we could do things over differently, we would have. We can't. So we're looking forward. And I think we both attended that rally over the summer at 33 Park Street, but only one left that rally going to work, putting together proposals that are now before the city council and are poised to be acted on next Tuesday night.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal.
I'm glad we have some rebuttal time in this debate. Couple points that he raised. Every time that there is an apartment developer that wants to expand or add apartments, I am there at those meetings speaking up and defending our residents. And Gary's been a no-show every single time, whether it was Granada Highlands looking for an expansion or the apartment on Maple Street that wanted to turn living rooms into bedrooms. Every time I am there, he is not. As far as the HDIP zone, I'll tell you how this works. They come to us in city council executive session and they say, we can't do a spot zone. We really want to fix City Hall. We need a funding mechanism so that we can afford a City Hall, but we can't pick one parcel. That's illegal. Here's the zone that we propose. We had no knowledge that Gary was suing the Masonic Building Association to take over that building and force a sale under duress to the former State Center, which is exactly what happened. He bought a building $900,000 under assessed value because he was under duress from the lawsuit instituted by Gary Christenson. Now, I had asked on the council because I had some residents that were sued and they came to me and they said, John, I'm being sued, I'm in Superior Court, what's going on? I said, the mayor didn't tell me about this, but I'm gonna get some information. Now, the council can't order the mayor to do anything, but we can pass a resolve. What we can order is the law department, and that's who you go to for receivership in these lawsuits. So we ordered the law department to give us notice before a lawsuit is filed, 7 days notice. So what he did is he paid another $28,000 out of a personal expense account in the mayor's office to hire outside attorneys that didn't have to give us notice. We didn't know that Masonic building was being sued. We had no reason to believe that the building that was in that HDIP zone was destined for a former state senator to make an extra $2 million on top of $900,000 discount sale. It just wasn't fair and it wasn't right.
Thank you. This will end the first question portion of the debate. We're going to go to Sharon Fillyaw for the second question, and this second question will then be met with Councilor Matheson, then followed by Gary Christenson. Sharon, please bring us the second question.
Thank you. This next question is from the Asian community represented by the Greater Malden Asian American Coalition and the Chinese Culture Connection. What is your plan to address accessibility to all Malden residents in this diverse city?
Thank you, Sharon. Councilor Matheson, 2 minutes.
So accessibility, it's a broad word. I don't know if you mean transportation around the city. I can say that that's not an issue that the mayor and I differ on. Building up streets and ADA compliance and sidewalks and ramps and crosswalks are extremely important. We all recognize that. If what you're talking about is accessibility, because this comes from the Asian Association, Chinese Culture Connection, if what you're talking about is to be able to have the full benefits of life in Malden by being able to communicate, I want to have a suite of translation staff in the mayor's office. Right now, there is a PR staff, and there's lots of press writing and internet blogging and social media performance, but I don't want any of that. I don't want to promote a mayor. I want to promote a city, and I want to give the ability for all our residents to communicate. I'll tell you a story. My first year in office, I had a lady, Asian American. She came to me. She said, "I'm being sued by the city of Malden. They want to come in and inspect my place. They told me to come down to inspectional services. I took the day off of work. I went down there. They weren't there. Suddenly, I was served with papers of a lawsuit." She was very confused. She was trying to look for an attorney to help her. She didn't know what she did wrong. She had just bought the home. The problem was really a simple one, and if it wasn't for a communication barrier, she wouldn't have gone through the trouble of a lawsuit. There's a lot of frustration and cost associated with that, and there's ways that we can make it so that everyone has the ability to navigate the government and the political system here if they just had the ability to communicate. We have a very large Asian population. I would say it's nearly 30%. We'll find out with the 2020 census. But that is reason enough that we should have translation services. The second generation, they speak very, very well, and they're high achievers. But the first generation that comes to America, they need this help. And there's funding in the mayor's office. The mayor's office budget now on personnel staff cost us over the last 8 years $1.5 million more than Mayor Howard's staff cost us in the 8 years prior.
Thank you. Gary, same question. You have 2 minutes.
Well, I think Adam Weldi, the chair of the Democratic City Committee, is going to be upset because I'm going to use a Ronald Reagan quote here, and that is, "There you go again." You had an opportunity for the past 8 years to do something, and I can't remember once where you filed a motion to say, "I would like to earmark or appropriate funds for translation services." It's only coming up right now because we're in the middle of a campaign. It's who's going to be there when the lights go down. And so we have, over the past 8 years, funded Bay State interpreters, which provides on-demand interpretation for the city, not for the mayor's office, for the city. So our departments have the option of contacting them for printed material translation, interpretation over the phone, or live in-person interpretation. And we also now are offering translation services on demand for any of our content on the website. Residents can click on a link and submit their question in their language, and they will get a response via email. So I know you want to spend, some time on the question about the mayor's office itself, but again, back in 2011, you voted to help us reorganize the mayor's office. Mayor Howard had weaned the office down. He was leaving. And we had some ideas of what we heard out in the community, that they wanted someone paying attention to business development. They wanted to beef up our communication. And they wanted someone to be able to be a nexus to all of these great organizations that we have, these nonprofits in Malden. That's what we did, and you voted for it. So now, 8 years later, you're using that to answer a question about how we can increase accessibility in our community?
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, you have 2-minute rebuttal time.
So I think the mayor misunderstands how this works. He makes the budget, right? We can approve or reject the budget. We can't actually create the line items that add a translator. Believe me, we have many, many ideas, and we have had to butt heads. When I was council president in 2015, and his road project was absurdly over budget and way over schedule, we wanted an independent auditor to come in, and we also wanted an independent water engineer to come in and put this thing back on track. He was refusing to do it, and we can't write it in there. We had to unanimously reject the budget. First time in my time in the council that ever happened. And then come back, negotiate with him, and in the 11th hour, we passed one that had those protections for the residents in there. So you can't tell me that it's my responsibility to add translation staff in the mayor's office. It simply doesn't work that way. As far as Bay State interpreters, I don't know, Lori Lee, Jason Law, have you benefited from this at all? Has anybody heard of Bay State interpreters? First I'm hearing of that one. Okay, so some people have and some people haven't, I'm hearing. So communication, thank you. Communication and press coordinator. That's what was added in the mayor's office when he reorganized it. And what we found was that he had a press calendar where he went out to different events where the press would get this calendar and they'd be able to find him and come down and attend. But he wasn't giving it to the councilors. He gave it to a couple people that he liked, but maybe didn't want to share the photo opportunities. So we passed a resolve and we said, Mayor, share this calendar with us. He refused until it came budget time and we're on TV, and this issue, I think, embarrassed him. He finally started providing it, and we've had that calendar up until I announced my candidacy for mayor. That calendar is no longer provided today. I think that he emphasized a lot of this press relations and social media, but not interpreter services.
Thank you. Mayor Christenson, you have 2-minute rebuttal time, and then we'll go to our third question. Thank you.
Don't be fooled again. It's what you make of it determines what you do. And he's had ample opportunity to let his voice be known, and he hasn't done it. It's clear as day. Go back the past 8 years and see what my opponent has done. He hasn't. Other people have. Other councilors have. They've made amendments. They've made suggestions. They've presented ideas. I mean, to say that you couldn't offer a thought about translation services, if that's your approach, or if that has been your approach, that, you know, that's the mayor, that's his administration, I mean, how are you going to do it if you become mayor? I mean, that's the question at hand. I mean, this is the easy part. The what, you know, but it's the how that really is the challenging question, and he just has not been able to answer that over the past 8 years, because if he had, he'd be talking about what he's accomplished instead of spending all his time talking about me, right? Tell us what you've done. At some point, you have to say, Councilor Matheson, what you've been doing these past 8 years. At some point. I mean, there's a few weeks left. I hope you'll start telling people what you've been doing these past 8 years. Because to me, that is the key to what kind of mayor you will be.
All right, we will begin our third question. Sharon, please feel free to tell us what that third question is.
The next question is from Malden resident Jackie Ecker of Lanark Street. As mayor, you are chairman of the school committee. What would be your first priority for improvements in the district?
Thank you so much, Sharon. That question will go to Gary, and then we'll be followed by Councilor Matheson.
Sorry. So the question was around what will we do for schools. It's what we won't do now that we have the Student Opportunity Act just about in place. And I really just want to take a moment to recognize our State Senator Jason Lewis, as well as Deb Jeswalder from the Malden Education Association, Ms. Ecker, and other parents and students. Because what this will mean for Malden is over 7 years, it will increase our aid by $21 million. And so what we plan to do is what we've always done, work with all these wonderful groups in our city, the Malden Education Association, the parents and the students, to start addressing some of the things that have, you know, either been reduced or cut over the years because we didn't have the funding. So that would be, you know, our game plan moving forward. We think this will open doors to reducing class size, to providing mid-level support, wraparound services, which our students have told us are sorely needed. You know, I know before and after school programming has been an issue, and so I think those are some of the things that we would do if elected mayor going forward.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, same question.
Thank you very much. In fiscal year 2012, when this mayor took over, our state Chapter 70 school aid was 87% of our total school cost. That has dropped down to 69% today. This means that our taxpayers, and I'm thinking back to question 1 and the cost of living in Malden, this means that our taxpayers went from paying $6.4 million a year to being responsible for paying $23 million a year to bridge the funding gap. This is unacceptable, and it's directly related to apartment developments. I don't think that our mayor had the foresight to know that these apartment developments were going to have a depressing effect on the state aid that we would receive. Now, I'm glad that our legislators are finally taking a serious look at updating our Chapter 70 school funding formula, which is nearly 30 years old and completely outdated, and it fails to take into account a lot of the expenses of a gateway district like us that has English language learning and homeless transportation and lots of sped costs. But that being said, there's lots that we can do to help the schools. So we failed to comply with grant rules, and that caused working parents to pay 2 times as much for their child to attend the after-school program. That is a serious problem. I think we need a grant writer and compliance that is state-of-the-art so that we take in the right amount of money and we keep that money. I will be a friend to education and public safety, and I think that it begins by making sure your financial house is in order.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Gary, you have 2 minutes to rebut.
I guess better late than never. 2 pieces of literature and not a single mention of the Malden Public Schools. Also, he's been in office 8 years. Why now? Where was this passion and energy 8 years ago when we could have used the help because we were stepping in to support a reduction in state funding? That's why our share went up. And if it didn't go up, the schools would have collapsed. So you can say, what if? You're good at that. But if you really cared, you would have done something during these past 8 years to help us who have been working painstakingly with Chuck Rannigan, Ron Hogan, and others to keep our fiscal house intact. Another indication that you're not really being serious right now is I thought for sure that one of the first things my opponent would have done is schedule time to meet with our school superintendent, John O'Terry, to say, can you tell me about your needs? How can I help? What are some strategies that we can partner up with? No call, crickets. So you can't sit here a week before the election and now say, I am going to help our schools. It's not, you can't attend the Malden High School graduation for the first time in 8 years and say you're connected to the schools. It takes meeting after meeting after meeting to really understand how important our schools are and why they need help, not just 8 years later, but every year.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal time.
What you have to understand is there is a difference between a full-time city manager and a full-time attorney that is spending his nights and his weekends and his time serving as a city councilor with the extra time and every effort that he has. It is your responsibility, Gary. I'm not going to give you credit for doing your job. You're just doing what you're supposed to be doing, okay? And in the meantime, we had to cut local bus transportation for the kids. We had to cut custodian services to the kids. You eliminated librarians. And then when you wanted to cut the custodians in the high school, blue-collar, working community people that live here in Malden, not earning a high wage, trying to raise their families. It was 2014, the city council had to stop you. And it was me going to the superintendent and brokering a deal between you and him and the city council to get the funding we needed to save those custodians. You wanted to cut them. So don't lecture me. And don't be fooled. This is his full-time job, folks. Of course he's responsible for it, and of course he has more of these communications and meetings. Give me that chance, and I'll be there for you too, and I'll do a better job at it.
All right. We will proceed with the 4th question. Sharon, what is the 4th question?
Thank you. The next question is from Helen Weitz, who represents the Mass Senior Action Council. What do you see as the future of this senior community center once City Hall construction is complete? This is a 2-part query. Will the use of the building return to such activities like ping pong?
Thank you, Sharon. Councilor Matheson, that question, followed by Mayor Christenson.
So I know ping pong was an issue in the past. It used to be something that there was more room dedicated to. I think what happened was we've gone through a few directors under Gary's tenure. He's gone through a few different people. I don't have anything disparaging to say about any particular one of them, but I will say that him and his administration have just added fees for the seniors. I feel that if you're a senior citizen, you're likely on a fixed income, right? You've paid your taxes, you've paid your dues. Why should you have to pay $3 to come in for a spin class? If you're a Malden resident, you should be able to use this beautiful building to its full benefit. And yes, if we need to expand, what I'd like to do is see exactly what services are needed and expand upon those. I don't think there's enough data tracking of that. If we need to expand this building, there's a possibility to expand on senior services, and I would like to explore that, but it'll happen with all the stakeholders in the entire community, including the ping pong community. I think that, you know, they take up a lot of room, and that was probably the impetus behind that challenge. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to gauge which activities the seniors are looking for and then deliver that change for them.
Thank you. Mayor Christenson, same question, 2 minutes.
Let me start with the same question again. Why now? Why haven't you raised this issue with us or your colleagues? First of all, there are no fees, Mr. Matheson. There are fees for classes, specific individual classes, but not a fee to get in to the building, which I think you may have insinuated. But again, if we're doing something that doesn't, meet what you think the senior center should be, put an item on the docket. I mean, that's how this thing works. You're the legislature, we're the executive branch, and we'd be willing to entertain whether or not your idea makes sense, but you haven't done it. Past performance is indicative of future results. So what our game plan is to continue following the lead of Karen Cologne-Hayes, who I think is doing a pretty amazing job here. First and foremost, she has made a connection between our students at Malden High School and our seniors here at the Senior Center. She's also in the midst of trying to maybe do something regarding the arts. Working with Osa Schwab, we've had multiple concerts right here on the stage that I've attended and that are great, and we think that may be a possibility. I think the sky's the limit. That's why it's called the Markey Community Center. And so we look forward to working with Ms. Hayes on trying to do everything that we can for our seniors moving forward.
Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal.
I don't know if there's anything that he takes responsibility for. Honestly, I'm getting tired of the same broken record of a single city councilor of 11 not holding him to account. It is his full-time job. He likes to go around City Hall and saying, I'm the CEO of this corporation. And yeah, that has rubbed people the wrong way. I think morale in this city is at an all-time low. And by the way, we have fantastic city employees. All they need are the resources and the encouragement that they need to do their best work. And they're simply not getting it. The only person who really needs to worry about their job next year is this guy right here. I'm looking forward to working with our folks and incentivizing them to do their best work. As far as the senior center, I didn't mention it was a fee to get in the building. It's a fee for the classes. I literally said that. But I think we need to bring in the stakeholders. There is a 30% Asian community in this city, and in the senior center, I think the population is even high. In public housing, it's even higher. It's about 50%. He's appointed the Public Housing Commission, 0 minority representation, 0. That is a very big and important community. Why aren't they represented? Why is he appointing his buddies from the Middlesex Sheriff's Office instead of appointing a commission that resembles this community? And you're seeing the same problem happen in this senior center. I'm sick and tired of it, Mayor. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor Christenson, 2-minute rebuttal, and then following that, we will be taking a break. Rebuttal.
2 words. Why now? Why didn't he raise this issue back when we sent the appointments down? That's your right, but you didn't choose to exercise it until you're running for mayor. So again, if you want to get into a discussion about diversity, you've appointed 4 department heads. I've never seen you once take that mic and say, hey, maybe we should broaden this job description. We have. Boards and commissions, 5 to 15%. City employees, 5 to 12%. Teachers, this year, 23% people of color, but you wouldn't know that because you haven't reached out to our school superintendent. So we can play this game all night, Councilor Matheson, but you have not done anything these past 8 years to make you qualified to be mayor of the city of Malden. I can't remember once that I've ever said I'm the CEO. I hate the title mayor. I just want to be one of the people, hang out with everyone, and just try to move our city forward. So, I mean, you know, again, you're taken away from the fact that you've been the invisible man over the past 8 years. That's what you're taking from. And if that's how you have to win, then so be it. But I can assure you of this. I take the job very seriously, too seriously, as I'm told, and I'm going to continue to give it long after the lights go down here at the Senior Center.
Thank you. This concludes our first portion of the mayoral debate. We're going to be taking a few minutes to take a break. Please feel free to move around, but we'll be returning shortly, and stay mindful of our broadcast. Thank you very much. All right. All right. Yes. So we're going to enjoy our break for just 2 more minutes. Also be mindful that the public question period is over. Public question period is over. We will re-begin in 2 minutes.
Mic up. Testing 1, 2. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we could please find your seats. And if you see any candidates out there, send them back in. Oh, this one. There's Sharon right there. So we hope to start in about 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Just to let people know the questions, and I want to thank, we had over 20 questions submitted in the barrel. So thank you so much for that. Out of those 2 questions, we selected 3. So 3 questions will be coming from the audience tonight. And thank you again for participating and becoming part of this event. Okay. They pulled the blinds on me, so I'm not sure if I can get a signal. Masha, what do I do? All right, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to go? Okay, I think we're all sitting down and ready to go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of the debate, mayor's debate of 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. All right, I'm going to take a beat. And welcome back. I'm your moderator, Guillermo Hamlin, and it is my pleasure to be bringing us into the second part of this political debate here in the Malden Senior Center for the mayoral candidates debate. We're going to go to Sharon Fillyaw with the 5th question. This 5th question will begin with Councilor Matheson, Mayor Christenson, and then we'll continue to alternate as we have. The only distinction is that at the end of the event, each candidate will have closing remarks of up to 5 minutes concluding the event. However, we're ways away from that. Sharon, feel free to give us our 5th question.
Thank you. The next question is from the Malden Chamber of Commerce, and this is also a 2-part query. What are your thoughts regarding bringing more businesses and commerce to Malden? And would you encourage the creation of more small businesses run from home?
Thank you so much, Sharon. Councilor Matheson, that question goes to you. 2 minutes.
Thank you. I am a small business owner, and I completely appreciate the small business community. 60% of all new jobs in America come from small businesses. And when you have the guts to start a small business, you automatically created a job in America your own, even if you're a sole proprietorship. So absolutely, I want to make it, and I want to make it more possible and accessible for people to work from home, because I think that's the future that this country's going in. A lot of people need special accommodations. Some people, working parents, need to be at home more often. Some people need that ability and that flexibility. And with today's technology, it's becoming more possible than ever to do that right. As far as the business community in Malden, I said it in the first debate, I'll say it again. We are missing the boat. Notice I didn't say we missed the boat. There's still an opportunity. This is one of the best economies of our lifetime. There's no denying it. Every financial indicator says so. But if you look at the economic boom that's happening all around us, it's kind of passed Malden by. You see a lot of empty storefronts. You do see some new businesses come in, and I'm happy about Bodeborg, as you are. I'm happy about faces going in. But we have dollar stores and empty storefronts when our surrounding communities don't. When you look down at Wellington Circle and you see what's happened there, it's absolutely beautiful. And then you look at Assembly Row, they got the Legoland and the local movie theater. That is phenomenal. Why doesn't Malden have that? We have location, location, location. We've got the busiest Orange Line T stops. We've got the highway. We've got all these routes going through our town. There is no reason why National Grid should be an abandoned parking lot. That was tied up for 8 years while Mayor Christenson negotiated with a developer that he was fond of, Alex Bach, and it went belly up, and now we've missed that opportunity. I want to see that downtown expand and go into that area too.
Thank you. Mayor Christensen, 2 minutes, same question.
You sure you live here? Because there's been a 20% increase in business establishments. 230 establishments have been added to Malden. There's been nearly a 3% increase in the employment base and 5.4% percentage increase in the average annual wages for workers from $48,000 to $51,500. We're about to groundbreak a new office building tomorrow at Middlesex in Charles. That will be a 110,000 square foot building for office and lab space. And we also are in the midst of working with the owner of the former Bank of America on Exchange Street, who is going to be redoing 320,000 square feet at that building. We have 4 biomedical device companies here and 1 biomanufacturer. We have 2 financial service companies that just set up shop here in the past year. And we also have Hoff's, 2 breweries, 2 drone companies. And just 2 weeks ago, Boston Globe business section front page, they were marveling at how Malden has carved out this niche of being a gaming district where we have 8D Rome Escape, Bodeborg, Wanyu Sports, Bitbar, and that's going to help support existing and future retail. Also tomorrow, we're going to be cutting the ribbon to the art gallery to the right of Cornucopia. And I can't say enough about the arts community. They have offered themselves to help get to where we all want to go. The restaurant scene goes without saying. Dine in Malden, taste the world. And we are working with our planner to develop a commercial incentive overlay zoning district that will help us along Canal Center, Charles, and Commercial. If you had some ideas over these past 8 years, we certainly would have welcomed them because we all agree that we want to drive the commercial market here in Malden.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal time.
Do you have these questions in advance? Because I see you reading off all these businesses like you knew the question was coming. But, all right, listen, regardless, I'm ready for this one too.
Please refrain from noise. Please refrain from noise. Councilor Matheson, your time is still going.
A 20% increase in the best economy of our lifetimes, a 20% increase. Mayor, this is the base that we should have expected, okay? And I can't give you credit for this one. I would like to, and I believe me, I'm straining to try to. But frankly, good things are going to happen in a good economy. This man simply waited for it to rain, and now he's taking credit for watering everyone's front lawn. This was going to happen. Anyone that goes downtown knows that we could do a lot better. And for that National Grid resource to go completely wasted, just like the Malden Hospital site, all of these years, I know he's going to point to me, the part-time counselor. Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Let me tell you, if my direction differs from the mayor, it is nearly impossible for me to effectuate my policies. You would need to hire the right manager. This is your city manager. If you like the direction the city is going in, by all means, re-elect him. I don't know if you'll get another opportunity for change after this one. If you like what happened the last 8 years and you want another repeat of that, he's giving you that opportunity. If you want something a little bit different, something where we bring in business revenue, which doesn't overcrowd our schools and our roads, and actually pays taxes at a higher rate and gives our homeowners a break for once, that's what I'm interested in. He's interested in the housing production that says we need 3,500 more apartments in the next 10 years. He signed a pact with MAPC last October saying he was interested in expanding the apartment base in Malden. Not the answer, folks.
Mayor Christensen, 2-minute rebuttal time, then we'll follow up with our 6th question. Thank you.
Not sure where to start. First of all, to say that I had the questions really says a lot about who you are. And second is that you have served alongside me for these past 8 years. Other councilors have done it. Councilor Murphy has found a way to redevelop the former McFadden Manor into a great assisted living facility. Former Councilor Kinnan has been able to find a path forward on doing something with High Rock. When I think Councilor O'Malley, I think infrastructure, gas infrastructure, trees. When I think Council Winslow, I think multimodal transportation. When I think Council Sika, I think about, community events to try to bring the community together. When I think Council Matheson, that's what I think. So I don't know why we can't just say what we've done, what we're going to do, and let the people make the call. I mean, I simply outlined some of the things that have occurred across our city, which would not be possible without our business development officer, Kevin Duffy, who, again, when you chided the whole mayor's reorg, he was part of that. You voted for it. And for the first time ever, our city has a business development officer who has been able to bring a lot of these businesses that I outlined in my remarks here to Malden. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. That's going out and recruiting and meeting with people and working with our Chamber of Commerce. So, again, the question was about commercial. The one thing we do agree on is on home businesses. I think that is something that's worth considering. And if I know our business development officer well, he certainly would be willing to meet with the Chamber of Commerce to see if there is an opportunity to make that happen going forward. But the stats don't lie. I mean, we're in the game.
We will now begin question 6. Sharon, what is question 6?
Okay, so these next questions, for question 6, again, it's going to be a two-part query. These are questions submitted by members of the audience whom did not include their names, so I cannot mention that, so thank you so much. The first part of question 6 is, according to the city's records, for the last 4 years, Malden has had less than 3 miles of roads paved. What are your plans to repair Malden's roads? Second part of the question, how do you plan to improve resident awareness of the Malden lead pipe issue?
Thank you, Sharon. Mayor Christenson, same question.
Thank you. We're going to keep being as aggressive as we can, as we have been the past 8 years. We have an aging infrastructure, and like every other city, the challenge is keeping up with the limited state resources that we have from Chapter 90. So what we've done in lieu of that, we have looked at our roads that have the oldest water mains. They also have the oldest lead lines and the oldest gas line. And what we do is we work with National Grid to line up the work to make sure that we address as many of those roads as we can. So over the past 8 years, we've been able to pave almost 30 miles of road, which equates to roughly 250 streets. Not enough. There's more work to be done. But what we're going to have to do until we increase revenues to be able to address it is continue down the path that we have. On the lead line issue, I'm proud to say that we've been able to reduce, when we started, from 5,000 lead lines down to 2,600 lead lines. And again, that has been something that I'm very proud of, thanks to people that are here tonight, like Maria Luis, Bobby Knox, Yem Lip from our city, who have gone above and beyond what is required of us today. Right now, the Department of Environmental Protection wants 150 full relays, both private and public. Last year, 240 lead lines were replaced, and this year, with a couple months to go, 250. So we've been very aggressive there. We also have a program that incentivizes private homes because we don't have jurisdiction to tell them to do it, but we've been working hard to nudge them to replace their line. So I'm very proud of the work that's been done because the rules changed in 2017. Prior to that, DEP said, just do your line and it'll count, the city side. 2017, they changed the rules. Now you have to do both sides.
Councilor Matheson, same question, 2 minutes.
So he mentioned it again, and it's in his literature. Nearly 30 miles of roads across 200 streets. That would equate to about a quarter of our city's roads. It is a whopper of a mistruth. I'm looking here at the most recent comprehensive annual financial report, which is signed by our mayor. And it says that we've done 1 mile of roads per year. It doesn't have this year on it yet. I'll give him credit for another mile of roads there. That's about 8 miles. It's not even close. I would love to hear your explanation. I'm glad we have rebuttal time for that. And then I've pulled down the Chapter 90 expenses, and I see a lot of things in here, including a dump truck for $210,000. What I don't see are a lot of roads. I think there was an opportunity to do a lot more roads. I think we paid for 30 miles of roads. I just think we got 8 miles of roads. And now we see Exchange Street is about to get done over again for what, about $2.4 million? We're going to lose parking spaces and put in a separated bicycle lane. I'm all for bicycles. I'm all for multimodal transportation. But that is a colossal amount of money for a bike lane that doesn't connect with any other bike lanes. And frankly, we have streets that need that help. Exchange Street just isn't one of those streets. He fought for that. This was being done with casino mitigation money, the design and everything, and they said, no, that's not a street that is impacted by the casino. So he went to work and hammered away until they finally relented and said, okay, and now we're going to spend $2.4 million on the wrong street. As far as lead lines, look, I don't know if you called the MWRA, but I did. You need to incentivize these folks in order to get the private side of the lead line replaced so you can replace the entire relay. You haven't provided any incentive for the private. I'll wait for my other 2 minutes.
Mayor Christenson, 2-minute rebuttal.
Sure. Let me just give this to Councilor Matheson. 1 pages, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, 10-point of all the roads that have been done since 2012.
1 page.
You can take a look at those.
That's the cap.
Okay, so there's all the roads right there for you. When it comes to Exchange Street, again, he's out to lunch because if he wasn't, he would have been here at the public hearing that was held on whether or not it made sense to do Exchange Street with state money, with actually federal money, not state money and not city money. He wasn't here. I was here. People were here. He wasn't. So if he's not there then, what makes us think he'll be here as mayor? Don't tell me because you're a full-time lawyer, what you put in is what you get out. So if my opponent really wanted to spend the time that is required of us, he would be doing it. He would have been at that meeting. Exchange Street is being paid for by the federal government. And the only reason they're paying for it is because we had leftover money from the downtown earmark that then Congressman Ed Markey got for us, and they were going to scoop it. And we fought to keep that money. And we said, listen, what better place to do improvements than Exchange Street, because that now is a major corridor from Malden Center train station to other parts of the city. So when they heard that argument, they let us not only keep the $400,000, but added another $1 million to it so we could redo Exchange Street. It's not just paving Exchange Street. It's making it ADA compliant. It's putting period lights. It's putting new trees. I mean, it's doing the street over at not our cost. So why wouldn't we take advantage of it? And again, we don't always get it right. If we're somehow off track, say something. Not now, say it then.
Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal time.
5 private developers are building apartment complexes on Exchange Street. That money is adequate to retool Exchange Street. Listen, we love state dollars and we love federal dollars, but don't tell me it doesn't cost me money. So you take the money out of my other pocket instead of my first pocket. Doesn't matter to me. We could have used that money on Main Street, and that would have freed up the Chapter 90 money that you could have used for other streets around the city. It didn't have to be exchanged, and you know it. I think you're being disingenuous. As far as the number of lead pipes that are remaining, we're estimating this, very conservative estimates now, folks, right? We're estimating $10.6 million to $12.3 million to remove all of our inventoried lead pipes, 100% of it. We could incentivize the public by giving them a zero-interest loan out of our retained earnings so they could get a new, clean, safe pipe today with nothing out of pocket. And then they could end up paying for that down the road when the house sells or refis. In fact, that's the only reason why private side lead pipes are being replaced today. Not because of anything Mayor Christenson did. It was because of something I did on the city council. We passed an ordinance that said when you sell your home, you have to get rid of your dangerous lead pipe. It's unsafe to kids and pregnant women, and you have to get rid of it. That's the only reason why we're getting full relays done today. He hasn't incentivized a single one of them. This method, I talked with MWRA, would unlock zero-interest loans. There's a $100 million zero-interest loan fund in other communities right now, like Newton just tapped it for $4 million. Marlboro is tapping it. We could tap those funds to replace the public side of the pipe, and we could loan zero interest out of retained earnings for the public to replace their private side of the pipe. We could have all of these repaid. And as those private side pipes, as that gets repaid, that would reimburse the city with funds we could use to retire the debt.
We will now begin the portion of the debate where we will go with question 7. Sharon, what is question 7?
This question is from the Malden Chamber of Commerce. We know that the drug problem is a nationwide issue. There is speculation of a treatment center locating to Commercial Street. There have arisen concerns regarding personal safety and potential business disruption. What is your plan to provide treatment while preventing potential problems from occurring?
Thank you, Sharon. This question will go to Councilor Matheson, then followed by Mayor Christenson. Councilor Matheson, question.
So drugs are the scourge of our society, and they have caused countless numbers of people to die, lose their jobs, lose their families, lose their careers. It is a sad, sad situation, and I think we all care about helping them. Malden has always and will always care for its own. That is a 100% guarantee, and I think that's going to happen whether I'm mayor or whether he stays your mayor. That being said, I was as shocked as anybody to hear the mayor go on Fox 25 News and say that you would have expected people to object to something like this, but we're not hearing that in our community. And we're applying for this facility. There's nothing from Boston all the way up to Lawrence, and this could serve a big swath of communities. His direct quote, 12 communities that need the services. If we're going to provide services for communities beyond our own, that requires a much more in-depth conversation that simply didn't happen. When he went on that news report, he did it because he was in the throes of a political campaign and he thought it would benefit him to make that announcement. What he didn't do is bother to tell the residents first. We need to be involved in that conversation. And if we're going to provide services for other communities, well, those beneficiaries need to step up to the plate. There needs to be real funding in place, not $350,000 or $380,000, real funding in place. In the meantime, I like that we are caring for our people. We have staff now that does that, and we take people to where they can get the treatment they need. I've had this kind of loss in my own family, and many of you have too. It's very, very serious, and we all take it very seriously. But a regional treatment facility requires a deeper discussion.
Mayor Christenson, same question.
I'm not sure how Councilor Matheson could be shocked or uninformed because he was at the same event that I was last spring, which was to raise funds for a bridge recovery center that would be overseen by Malden Overcoming Addiction. As a matter of fact, on his Facebook page, it said, "Together we can." It had the hashtag, "Together we can." The sign was prominently displayed. So I know he hasn't supported Malden Overcoming Addiction before, and he probably regrets it doing now. He hasn't been to one of their events until now, and that's the one he probably wishes he could have back because he could say, I didn't really truly know about the Bridge Recovery Center. But folks, he was there. The Bridge Recovery Center banner was right above his table. Every speaker spoke of it. So, you know, it saddens me to see my opponent first commit to not politicizing this important topic and then follow up by doing a poll to ask residents how they feel about a recovery center. So, listen, it's not the way I drew it up. I wish I could have that one back. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm not in favor. I've pushed back during my time in public office to methadone clinics, to self-injection sites. But, you know, what Malden Overcoming Addiction has done, I think we both agree on this, you know, their idea of trying to educate people, families, about this disease, I think they should at least be listened to. And of course, we've told them all along that if this was to come together, it would be done through a community process. So in the meantime, while we wait, I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Malden Overcoming Addiction for stepping in, because prior to their existence, I didn't know what to say to families who lost loved ones. Now I do. Call Malden Overcoming Addiction.
Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal time.
So it saddens me that he would claim I politicized this. I didn't go on the news. I didn't make a press release. I didn't say the city of Malden and the health department are applying for this grant to bring in the Bridge Recovery Center. He clearly knows more about the Bridge Recovery Center than I do. That's not the point. I, like many of you, did not expect that Malden would be a regional hub for addiction recovery. If that's the direction we want to go in, this is your community. You need to decide what the future of your community is. It shouldn't be done with one person. And if there wasn't such tremendous blowback, he wouldn't be backpedaling on this and saying, there is going to be a community discussion. When? After you go on the news and announce it? That's the wrong order. That's the cart before the horse, Mayor, and you know that. You know that. Don't say shame on me. This is your issue. This is your press report. All I did was quote your verbatim words. Simply put, your verbatim words. That being said, it's not about Malden Overcoming Addiction. I think they're a great group. We all do. We all care about the plight, and we're all going to do what we can to help. But a regional recovery center, that requires a deeper conversation, like I said.
Mayor Christenson, 2-minute rebuttal.
Again, I'm not sure where he's been these past 8 years, but I brought an article for him that was in the Malden Observer that was dated March 8, 2017. Malden Overcoming Addiction leads push for regional recovery center in Malden. So again, he had the opportunity. If we were way off track and if something was completely out of sorts, he says he's good at doing resolves. Put a resolve on the council docket. Back in 2017, 2018, 2016, sometime, stand up at that fundraiser and say, I don't know, or call Malden Overcoming Addiction and say, hey, can I get a little bit more information about this? Because if he had, he would know that the majority of families that were going to be served at this would be Malden families. But he didn't. He just seized upon something that Fox 25 got wrong, and they admitted that. They apologized to me that afternoon and just has been riding it ever since. So, you know, again, this is a very difficult issue. I've gone to a lot of funerals where families have said, there's not much you can do for us here, but try to save as many as you can going forward. And that, to me, is what Malden Overcoming Addiction has done, and it's why we should at least listen to what they may be able to do to help our community going forward.
We will now begin the portion of the debate in which we hear question 8. Sharon, Fillyaw, what is question 8?
This is, again, a two-part question submitted by the audience. Do you think Malden's zoning ordinance needs revision? If so, how? And how does this dovetail with the creation and implementation of an exclusionary housing policy?
Thank you, Sharon. Mayor Christenson, you get to answer that first. You have 2 minutes, followed by Councilor Matheson.
Yes, we do believe that there should be an inclusionary zoning policy, and it's something that the council did make an attempt several years ago, but we're not able to come together on it. So we are offering our suggestions and advice on how to get there, which includes, doing first a financial feasibility study, because we need to determine what is right for our city. What should be the percentage, after how many units, et cetera. So that's one of the things that we're working on. We have the support of the council, and we would hope, based on our conversations with the council, that we could have a policy in place that would guide us going forward in January 2020.
Councilor Matheson, 2 minutes. Same question.
Yeah, I just want to come back very briefly. The news article, the press release never mentioned Malden overcoming addiction. I know you want to mention that, but that's not what your announcement was on the television. And as far as the speakers at the events, I mean, we were all very touched by them, but I think it was too much dominated by the politicians in the room. As far as zoning, one of the things that disturbs me is that we're considering zoning changes by simple majority in the future. If that were to happen, there would already be a huge apartment complex up in Malden Hospital. What this mayor did, without telling us, back in 2013, is he told the property owner and the developer that we would like to see, our city and the city council, even though it wasn't truthful, we'd like to see something like Oak Grove Village, which, by the way, is a 550-unit apartment complex up on Hospital Hill. I've got the email where they wrote back and they said, oh, we went and visited that at your recommendation, Mayor, and now we have an idea of what you want and what the council wants for the future of Malden. When we went out and polled the public, 80% said they didn't want that, 80%, and he continued to pursue it. That's not a government that's for the people. And by the way, that site simply could not support that type of density and all of those cars. Fellsway East is like a parking lot during rush hour now as it is, and the accidents are out of control. And he tried to even hold up the safety improvements at that deadly intersection to try to make it contingent on him getting that development pushed through up there. By the way, if simple majority is all that was needed to change zoning, you'd have zoning being changed on you, because this mayor doesn't have a check and balance on the council. He's got a majority of votes anytime he wants it. And that's a problem for our community. That's the truth.
Mayor Christenson, 2-minute rebuttal.
I was simply doing Councilor Matheson's job, because nothing had occurred up there in 8 years. It's the one issue that he ran on. 8 years later, nothing's been done. So we stepped in to see if there was a way, as we always do, to try to find a compromise. So the developer started off with 450 apartments. We were able to convert that to 250 owner-occupied homes that would have used the existing footprint of the hospital, would have left every tree there. There would have been a privately managed trail that people could walk around. He would have donated land. There would have been affordable housing if there was a hearing, which he never let it get to, even though he says, we need to get public input. So that's all we were trying to do. Now, when it didn't gain any traction, we said, okay, you have at it. Comes along is this hospital ad hoc subcommittee, of which he's the chair. 8 meetings, 2 years, 0 results. Actually, strike that. There was 1 result. He was found to have violated the open meeting law by the Attorney General's office. So again, Barbara Murphy's been able to do it with our office. McFadden Manor, empty, now home to 60 assisted living units. High Rock, slated for major development. Councilor Kinnan was able to work with Mayor Howard and our office to be able to make that conservation land. It can be done if you're willing to put the time in. He has not, and that's why we are where we are.
Councilor Matheson, 2-minute rebuttal time.
If you're a private landowner in a Residence A district that only allows for single-family homes, open space, and places of worship, and the mayor tells you that he is amenable to 500-plus units, you are salivating, because that is a multi-million-dollar bonanza that a nonprofit tax-exempt corporation like a hospital corporation would be chomping at the bit for. And of course, they were going to hold fast. And by the way, he didn't bring that proposal down from 450 to 250. That was me. I rejected and held it back several times and involved the community every single step of the way. I would host meetings and bring the entire community together. And I would say, do you want this proposal? And you'd hear a chorus like, no. And then I'd go back in the meeting room with Gary, and he'd say, the community's divided. I'll show you the newspaper articles. He literally said it. Prove it. The community's divided. Well, how am I going to prove it? So I got them blank index cards. I said, tell me what you want. I brought the index cards in. Still didn't believe it. The community's divided. I put it on the ballot. I said, you guys vote. Every one of you is going to get a vote and a say in this one. And then we got a 78% average, citywide average. Even people on the other side of the city that said, no, that's not what we want for the future. Do you think he gave up? He went back to the drawing board with that same developer. And maybe it's because he's got friendships with these guys. Sometimes these developers write campaign checks. But that being said, 8 campaign meetings, it's a full-time job holding a mayor off and protecting a community from overdevelopment, a full-time job. And I held 8 meetings, and you know what we did? We brought the Malden City Council and the Midford City Council together, and now it's no longer under agreement with that massive apartment developer. We did that. We actually did achieve those results. If you wanted development results, you need a mayor to drive that. That's the man that speaks for the community. Hallmark wasn't going to entertain what we had to say. We held meetings with them. They kept coming back to what Christenson wanted.
Thank you to the audience for staying with me throughout this trip. I'd like to thank Sharon Fillyaw for her portion as a panelist asking these 8 questions. Let's give her a round of applause. Now, I maintain that you all sit in your seat, and please maintain the silence that you have all been able to give to these candidates as we begin our closing remarks section. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to submit their final closing remarks. There are no rebuttals in this instance. Each candidate gets their full 5 minutes, and then following that, we will adjourn the meeting. We will begin with Councilor Matheson, followed by Mayor Christenson.
Thank you. I am so grateful to be here, to be able to talk to you about how we can make our community a better place. Thank you to MATV. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Guillermo. Thank you to my friends and family and neighbors for helping me with this campaign. I'm running for mayor because I love my hometown. And I know that my education, my experience, and my heart can make Malden a better place to live, to work, to raise a family. People are not pleased with the direction of our city over the last 8 years, and it's no wonder. Our government has not served our residents on blue bags, on apartment growth, on lead pipes, on roads, or on traffic. After a major theft in 2011, the Department of Revenue investigated Malden and concluded that we need a CFO to control theft and waste. Our mayor funded many new positions, including a photographer, but never a CFO. And you can't find a corporation with combined budgets of $200 million in annual revenues that doesn't have a CFO in America. It just doesn't exist. And we all pay the price of that decision. For example, our most recent audit says that for all 8 years, we've been losing money by not keeping our cash balance in interest-bearing accounts. That's cost us at least $350,000 a year. And when we did an audit of our streetlights, we discovered that National Grid was charging us for 166 streetlights that didn't exist. They weren't there, but we paid the bill. This cost you about $350,000. Gary didn't get you a refund. I will, period. Most cities don't build as many large apartment developments as we do. So when they do, environmental protection tells them to require the developers to repair the aging sewers. This mayor never did that. As a result, you'll be paying millions of dollars for those repairs in the future. You also pay when environmental protection fines us for non-compliance, as they did with this mayor's poor progress with lead pipes. He claims that he gave the former state senator a $2 million tax gift not to demolish a building. It's simply not true. This would have been a perfect opportunity for him to negotiate sewers, or to negotiate affordable housing units, or fix some of our 200 broken fire hydrants. He did none of that. Due to these new apartments, our Chapter 70 state funding for schools has declined, as I said earlier, from 87% to 69%, and now you're paying $23 million instead of $6.4 million, which was your bill when he took office. Every time you don't get the fair share from an apartment developer, we're all making up the difference. This is why he charges Malden residents an extra $2 million a year in fines than the prior administration. For example, he doubled street sweeping fines. And when I passed a resolve, Mayor, that said, put up the signs that tell people the parking rules before you write those increased tickets, he ignored it for 2 years while he wrote $1 million in fines. That is just plain wrong. We're a poor community, and I'm not afraid to say it. We're in the bottom 10% of income per capita per person in the city. Our mayor should be looking out for us. After 8 years of failing to provide alternatives to blue bags, this race forced him to articulate a new plan. And guess what? The new plan even costs you more. Think about it. You're getting hit from every angle, and it's still not stopping. I will be the mayor that cares about your wallet. I was raised in a poor Malden family. We ate leftovers, we wore hand-me-down clothes, and the rest of it. I hate to see money go to waste. Whether it's my money or yours, it doesn't matter. I absolutely hate it, and I've seen too much of it in government. This is something that I want to change. You're paying the price. In the future, we will not have a department that promotes a mayor in the newspapers and on social media. We'll be promoting a city that's perfectly situated to be the next thriving business hub of the Metro North. This will allow us to bring in business revenue that we need without overcrowding our schools or our roads or overtaxing our people. Instead of the Malden Hospital site, National Grid site going to waste because of selfish deal-making, we'll add the open space that we need and the housing we need to keep our seniors from leaving our community. We will clean the Malden River, and we can beautify our streets and sidewalks again. This will raise community pride and property values. We will do a citywide inventory of every street and assess every road, sidewalk, and parking space and public trees so we know exactly what we need and what needs to be fixed so that everyone will benefit. This is your chance for change, and we don't know when it'll come again. If you honor me with your vote, apartment construction will not be on my agenda. My interests will be with Malden and its taxpayers 100% of the time. When we get our financial house in order, it will benefit all of us, our police, our fire, our roads, our taxpayers. Thank you so much. God bless.
Mayor Christenson, your closing statement.
I still can't believe I am living out my high school dream of being mayor of this great city. I've said many times, and it bears repeating, it has been the greatest honor of my life. Regardless of the results on November 5th, I'm eternally grateful for the support of my family, my friends, and all of you for giving me the opportunity to serve you. As I think back on my time in office, I can't help but be proud of our many accomplishments. There is, of course, achieving the long sought-after goal of reopening Pleasant Street and building a new police station and city hall. There is the opening of a teen center, which has given our youth a safe and vibrant place to be active in our community. There is the mile after mile of water mains that we've replaced, ensuring that future generations will enjoy the basic right of clean drinking water. There are neighborhoods that are safer than ever thanks to crime being at or near all-time lows. And let us not forget the fact that we have a bond rating that is the highest it has been in city history. The results are real, meaningful, and measurable. But make no mistake, we have much more work to do. There is a healthy and respectful dialogue to be had about just how much growth is right for Malden. And because of that, I was the only mayor in the metro area to not commit to a number for housing production so that with the City Council, we can take a closer look at what's right for our community. We also have to find ways to keep Malden affordable. And as a result, we've introduced several initiatives that I look forward to collaborating with the City Council on. But more important than what we have done is how we have done it. And that is to leave no one behind, respecting our past and embracing our future. What we have not done and what we will not do is replicate the tone and tenor at the national level. Malden is, more than anything, a community of hard-working families. Our residents are iron workers, teachers, utility workers. Our residents are retail workers, landscapers, and public safety officials. That is why I couldn't be more pleased to have the endorsements of several unions, including the Greater Boston Labor Council, Massachusetts AFL-CIO, the Malden Education Association, and SEIU 888. To know that we each recognize the importance of working families in Malden means a lot to me. Lastly, over these past few months, there have been plenty of things my opponent and I have disagreed on, but I know we can come together on this last point. As we head into November and get ready for Veterans Day, let's honor the sacrifice made by our veterans by exercising the right to vote. Over 1 million Americans have died fighting for this country, fighting for the very rights we sometimes take for granted. Out of respect for all who have served and are presently serving our country, please exercise your right to vote. It is, after all, what makes us the greatest country in the world. On Tuesday, November 5th, I encourage you to participate in the future of our city, and I respectfully ask for your vote for mayor. Thank you.
So, even though we're still going for broadcast, my name is Guillermo Hamlin. I'd like to thank Sharon, Fillyaw, along with me at MATV, as well as Ron Cox, our Executive Director. We have adjourned this meeting. Thank you so much, and don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 5th, here in the city of Malden. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.